We're live, yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Human-ish podcast, where our topics are defined by human experience. I'm welcoming Ravi Lakhani, my close friend of mine. Thanks for making the podcast, man.
Good to be here, Dene. Nice to be on your first one. I think you've been thinking about this one for a while now.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect time to launch it. Everyone's at home. So
yeah, I want to try not to be the stereotype of the typical 20-year-old male, voicing their thoughts on a podcast. I want to make this a long-term thing, hopefully.
Okay, good stuff. So I think first things first, I've already had 4 people message me and say, Dene, what's up with the haircut? Are you going to be a monk? And if not, why do you look like a jihadi? So let's start with that question straight in.
I'm not gonna lie, man. It's just easier to maintain. So I don't know if you can tell, but my hairline's receding a little bit. So it's honestly, there's no spiritual reason, right? It's just easier to maintain. I could say that it's hair's only for aesthetics, and I'm shaving my hair off, to be more sort of in tune with myself. But I've got a beard, and it's well maintained, so I can't really use that.
Okay, so the beard maintenance there, and now in the public domain, you've admitted that you have a receding hairline.
Yeah, man.
Forever.
Honesty, innit?
Okay, fine. So you're not the standard 20-year-old who's starting a podcast and voicing their sort of post-teenage angst online.
Yeah. But yeah.
So then what's the point of this podcast? Where are we going with this one? What's your plan with it?
Well, I don't want to be specialized. So a lot of podcasts out there are very sort of specialized, one topic. You've got a martial arts podcast, or you've got a technology podcast. I don't want to be that, because human experience isn't specialized. You experience multiple things. So for a long time I've disagreed with specialization. If you look at martial arts don't agree with specialization either. You've got to be pretty good at everything and seeing the underlying principles in everything. So the thing that's guiding this podcast is looking at the underlying principles in multiple topics. So it just gives me an excuse to explore what's interesting, really.
Okay, so an excuse to explore what's interesting and explore the underlying sort of commonalities. Is that where we're going with this?
Yeah.
Just exploration for the sake of exploration? Well,
I mean, I suppose it's both in a way, because there are commonalities in everything, and to really understand something, I think, the fundamental principles are shared. But also exploring for the sake of exploring. Like I've loved science ever since I was a kid, and science is basically exploring for the sake of exploring.
Okay. So you're exploring anti-specialization, a major one.
Yeah.
And is it you're going to be using the scientific method? So let's take an idea, hypothesize about it, and see how it applies, and then maybe we'll come out with some cool conclusions.
Yeah. So I mean, I do use the scientific method usually when I think. So I'm like, oh well, is this the case? I'll ask the correct questions and then probably come up with a conclusion. But also using the Socratic method, so just asking questions and seeing what pops up. And usually, if you ask enough questions, the same things tend to pop up. Like you see it in martial arts all the time. If you talk to a wrestler, if you talk to a taekwondo fighter, they both talk about this, but kind of being in the moment and not predicting the future too much. And there's this whole balance between how they view time, and that's the same in specializing in anything. And all specialists, funnily enough, share principles, and that's what I want to see.
Okay, so you've got the beard for it. You've been growing that one out. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the journey so far. So what has made Vinay come to this point and said, right, I'm ready to start a podcast? What makes Vinay Vinay?
Well, so to begin with, it's science, right? So from a young age, I've loved reading whatever I can get my hands on. And ever since my mother bought me my first encyclopedia, I'm pretty sure I've loved science since then. So the scientific method has been like with me for a long time, and I studied neuroscience. Pardon?
Nerd's
cool, man. Nerd's cool. Nerd's the way forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so that's been with me for a long time. Before I went to university, I did a research project in Canada, and that really influenced me too. It was with my uncle, and he heavily influenced my way of thinking. So there was that, and then there was so all I knew was science up until that point. I did a program when I was about, again, the same age, called Star Plus, and that was all about introducing me to all these different aspects of life. We had economics and philosophy and psychology all in the same course, right? But then none of it felt daunting at all, because I knew how to ask questions. And the major thing that evolved during that time for me was the ability to ask the right questions. And then, fast forward to university, I started to take martial arts a lot more seriously than I did. So I started martial arts when I was 13, and then starting university, I took martial arts really seriously, especially Taekwondo. And that shaped my thinking too, in terms of understanding that movement is important. So not just being a good martial artist, but understanding that movement is important. And exploring this, I started to realize that a lot of the fundamental principles in martial arts are also shared in all of my intellectual pursuits.
Yeah, definitely. So that sounds very Zen and very, Taoist almost. Looks like that sort of space. So you talk about martial arts, and we've had several conversations before. I've known you for at least a few years now. And it seems like it's really the movement aspect that interests you, the sort of how the human body moves within the context of martial arts, but also just in general, how it moves. So what is it about the movement that you think is so important for our current culture right now?
There are a few things. Firstly, I'm pretty sure this is true, that humans are capable of the widest range of movements, and probably the most complex movements out of the animal kingdom, right? So you've got other animals that are hyper specialized in what they do, right? Like if you watch a tiger stalking its prey, it's absolutely beautiful, right? And a human probably couldn't stalk prey as well as a tiger could. But
I don't know, man. Friday night, I've seen some.
You know what though? They're not as stealthy, man. Straight up obvious. I was in a. It gets that. So yeah, but for example, humans can do tricking, and I was looking at the list of all the tricking tricks the other day, and it's crazy, right? And I've yet to see an animal that can do something as complex as tricking or breakdancing.
Got all these dudes with legs and arms flying everywhere.
Yeah, man. Like doing these 1,260-degree twists in the air, like amount of coordination and power you need for that. But yeah, so humans, number one, are a lot more capable than we allow for. And then with the current culture, why it's so important is because people have forgotten what it is that makes you human. There's this big emphasis on sort of socializing, right? Social media, and we're using it right now. And I'm not demonizing it, but there isn't an emphasis on movement quality or exploring what you can do. Like you got to go to the gym. You got to go to the gym and do bicep curls and lose the fat so that you look good. But what about being able to do a backflip? That's a lot cooler. And when you're a kid, you're a lot more in tune with that. Right? A kid does not care about having a six pack. A kid cares about, oh look, I did a handstand today, and we've seemed to have lost that. And
so what you're saying is, that's quite a deep statement you just made. What you're saying is what makes us human is the curiosity and the sort of the curiosity to explore our potential in whether that's movement or intellectually, physically or intellectually, right?
Yeah, the curiosity to explore your potential is intertwined with adaptability, right? Being able to adapt to different outcomes is in a way exploring different solutions. And the more you explore different solutions, the more you increase your capacity to explore different solutions, right? Because brains are plastic. That is true intellectually and physically, but we don't do that physically at all. And we're not even, in my opinion, we're not doing it intellectually as much as we could, because we're all about specializing now.
So
one of
let's
my
take
sorry.
movement, right? So let's take movement. So if I had a scale of 1 to 100, who would you put at the sort of top end of the scale in terms of movers and people who've really explored this space? Yeah. So I mean, we were talking about Ido Portal and guys like this. Who's at the top end of this space?
So it's difficult because that's like talking about who's the best speaker. Like there are some people who are really good at speaking about certain topics, but there are some people who are really good at having conversations, right? So Ido Portal is really good at improvising. Let's say, like he's got a wide, he's dipped his fingers into a lot of pots, right? And his movement quality is beautiful, and plus he
Yeah, I
knows
mean,
it
this
fairly
guy,
in
he's
depth.
doing animal movement, jiu-jitsu,
Boxing,
capoeira, boxing, MMA. I mean, he trained Conor McGregor, right?
yeah.
So,
So, but he's got a capoeira base, and
okay.
you can see that in his movement. But then, like, who am I to say that Ido Portal's movement is better than a parkour athlete's? Right? Because
Okay.
parkour athletes are insanely adaptable. Breakdancers are adaptable. Gymnasts are adaptable. Um, so I don't think it's fair to talk about who is the best mover. It's
Okay,
probably
but
yeah,
these guys would be in the sort of top strata of movers, right? In terms of humanity, like they'd be
yeah,
they'd be
yeah.
the guys to aim at. And let's say the scale is 1 to 100. Where do you think the average person is right now?
Oh, the average person. I'm not gonna lie, man. Like 10.
Oh wow. Okay, so you're pretty pessimistic about where we are right now. As a sort of
Yeah,
species, you think there's a lot of improvement to do. Um,
yeah. There is. Like, I'm not even. I'm probably like a 20. Like, if that. You know. Yeah. I don't. There's so much to learn that it's basically an ocean, and then it, even then, like you learn. Let's say you learn all the things, you're still capable of inventing new things. It's about like fostering that capable, the adaptability. That's what I think it is, and the creativity.
so let's say someone sat at home right now. They're probably wondering, "Hey, what the hell is this movement thing these guys are talking about?"
Yeah.
Um, but it sounds a little bit interesting. Where do you recommend that they go, or what couple of things you recommend that they do to kind of just start on this journey of exploring it?
Well, if you're sitting on your couch, watch this podcast while squatting. That's something, right? And most people can't even squat, like the Asian squat. So go for a walk, like run, do something. If you're living a sedentary life, literally anything is better than nothing. If you've just done the one thing though, so if you're someone that like goes to the gym regularly, that's cool because you're doing something, right? But go learn something new. Why not? Like if there's a boxing class at your gym, learn how to box. If there's a people think dance is not cool. Like dance is cool. Like dance is really cool. These guys are adaptable as hell, and they're insanely creative.
Yeah, yeah, no,
Learn to
absolutely.
dance. Like the high you get when you learn a new movement is like it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch these guys on MMA, like their footwork, who is it? Khabib's father made him do samba as a kid.
Yeah,
Lomachenko's father made him do Russian traditional dancing as a kid. So clearly there's some crossovers and some deep, um, deep movements that are embedded in that habit.
yeah, and plus like fighting, you end up in a bunch of uncertain scenarios in fighting, right? So if you've done different forms of movement beyond fighting, when you end up in an uncertain scenario, your body can adapt quick.
Okay, so that's one of the takeaways you were saying, that you'll learn in movement, you'll learn in fighting, but it applies to life. It's just about being exposed to as many different scenarios as
Yeah, and
possible.
that's not just for fighting, even for like everyday life. If you can move well, you're less likely to get injured. Imagine you fall down the stairs. Like if you can move well, you can probably recover well from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I from taekwondo, my ankles and my knees are quite stable, and I notice every time I get close to rolling my ankle, right? Most people would have rolled their ankle, but me, I can recover quickly because
Okay,
it's
because
stable.
there's the stability, there's the base around it. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, definitely medicine and the guys I was talking to in the medical field, there's an increasing emphasis towards keeping people active, keeping them moving, as opposed to just purely medicate, recover.
Yeah.
Because you can try and maintain, but any moment it seems that you try and maintain, actually you're going to dip. So unless you're kind of increasing, you're going to dip, right?
Yeah, like for like back pain, like commonly people tell someone with back pain to just rest. That doesn't help at all. Like not in the slightest. Like what helps is moving as much as you can.
Okay, I mean, yeah, maybe talk to a physio, right? Like
no, as in like a
don't try
physio
and do
said this.
backflips and stuff.
Like I said, I'm not saying do backflips, right? But if you've got back pain and
you can
all
have some guy sat at home who tries to do a backflip. It'd be your fault.
Like, if all you can do is like sit down, like stand up and sit down.
Yeah, fine. So start with where you have and build.
Yeah, that's what like you know. Movement isn't this Ido Portal, capoeira, backflips, and all that stuff. Movement is anything. I'm moving now, right? And if everything is moving.
Sure. So what's interesting is last week I was having a chat with a monk. So he's a monk in Switzerland, and he was saying like the purpose of yoga and yoga and what we do, all the movements or the asanas, is so that you build the stability and the kind of muscle ability that you can sit still and just really focus when you're meditating. Whereas what he was saying is if you don't have the core and the ability to move and be stable, then you're not going to have the ability to sit still.
Yeah,
which is a really interesting pairing, and we don't think about it like that.
Yeah, like physically and mentally, I think like once you reach a decent level, there is like it's kind of paradoxical, but there is stillness in movement. Like when you're moving well, like really well, like fighters, right? Top level fighters, right? Their minds are. It's a really big scenario, right? You've got thousands of people watching you, money's on the line, you've been training for 6 months, right? But these guys are at the top of their game, and when they're in the ring, all that is on their mind is the fight, and that's it, right? And that their mind is still, like it's completely still on, like it's locked onto the target, right? Despite all the trials and tribulations they're facing, and it's the same thing with movement. Like if you there's a Chinese proverb actually that if you can do it slow, you can do it fast. It's something
that's not
like
a
that.
Chinese proverb.
Is it? I heard it's a Chinese
that's
proverb.
Corrupted.
What is it?
Get it out of here.
What is it?
No, I think it's I mean, you introduced me to Miyamoto Musashi.
Yeah.
Right, and he says like a true warrior is like never angry in battle. The moment you become angry or you lose your emotional state, you're going to lose, right? So it's that's what you're talking about, if I get you right.
Yeah. Like
inner stillness.
That's why these parkour guys can jump off roofs.
Because you're calm, right? So Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, he had an interview last month, and that's what he was saying. What he was saying is you need to train to the extent that you no longer feel uncomfortable, and therefore, your stance is relaxed. You'll move quicker, you'll punch quicker, you'll block quicker, you'll react quicker if you're relaxed. The moment you tense up, you're going to lose straight away.
Bruce Lee said the same thing, like in terms of like speed, and then also you can see in the demeanor, like Conor McGregor is like a prime example. When he fought Jose Aldo, like that entire press tour, he was wild, right? Like completely mentally destroying Aldo. But then you saw him in the ring during the, when with the face-off done, like just eye contact, everything was flat. There was no animosity. There was nothing. It was just, I'm gonna land this punch.
Yeah, it's the focus, isn't it? Okay, so let's bring it back to the podcast. I think we've got about 5-10 minutes left. So if you could have 2 dream guests on this podcast, who are you going to have and why? You get being fair here. So
okay, right. Dead or alive, yeah?
Oh, okay. Let's do 2 alive and then we can do 2 dead later.
Okay, 2 alive. Oh, okay. I would have, because I'm interested in consciousness too, I would have there's a neuroscientist in London called Robert Kahart Harris. I really like his work, so I would have him on.
What's he done? Tell us a bit about it.
He's doing a lot of work on like psychedelics at Imperial College in London. So he's really interesting. He wrote a paper called The Entropic Brain, which caught my interest. And then most of the psychedelic research in London he's involved with. He's really spearheading.
Is it the drugs you're interested in, or is it the professor?
I'll leave that unsaid.
Okay.
But yeah, so him. And in terms of movement, okay, if it's alive, I'd probably have maybe like Sayan Chai, a Muay Thai fighter.
Okay, I mean, tell us a bit about him. So I haven't heard about this guy. So
Okay, so Sayan Chai is the Muay Thai legend. The Muay Thai legend. He's had well over 300 fights.
oh, he's retired now though.
He still fights for fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but he's mainly doing seminars and stuff. Like he does like fights with foreigners and stuff. And you see him, man, crazy relaxed, always having a laugh. He schools people in the ring. And is like it's incredible. He's got like a really unique style of Muay Thai. I don't know what it'd be like doing a podcast with him, but I definitely want to learn from him.
Yeah. I mean, we'd have to see you in the ring together afterwards. So.
Yeah, you'd like to say that'd be my death date. To be fair, that'd be a good way to go.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
And two dead people.
Two dead people, Bruce Lee.
Of course.
Yeah, that's just it goes without saying.
Yeah.
Then probably some like older day philosopher, like who's interesting. See, you know what? It'd be interesting to talk to Nietzsche, but I'd probably like leave the conversation wanting to kill myself.
Superpower.
You know what, Musashi, man, Musashi's philosophy is exactly what I'm trying to get across during this podcast.
Okay, so the 7 rings, it's called?
5 rings.
Five rings.
Five rings.
There we go. I just added 2 rings.
Yeah, man. Hopefully we can add a few more.
Yeah.
Miyamoto Musashi was a samurai in the Meiji period, I think. Yeah, so I'd have to learn Japanese for that podcast.
Okay, so next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why not?
Okay, and last 2 questions. Let's say, what have you got lined up? What's coming up next couple of podcasts?
So I'm looking to do a podcast on parkour soon. And then in the future, like in the near future, I want to be focusing a little bit on neuroscience because that's my background. So a few podcasts talking about consciousness from the perspective of neuroscience. Definitely a podcast on parkour, and hopefully consciousness from the perspective of maybe Hinduism.
Oh wow! Okay. So we've got a question here from Theo Adam Bateson.
Okay, Theo.
Yeah, I think you know, but he's asking, what about this idea of collaboration versus competition in this space?
Well, in terms of the podcast, well, I mean,
I think he means in terms of humanity. I mean, he hasn't clarified.
Okay, well, let's think about it. So collaboration I think is key, right? So obviously everybody can't think about everything. You'll have your own niche through which to view the world. So if you want to understand the world in a cohesive way, you're going to have to collaborate. You have to understand it from different perspectives. So I think collaboration is key, a lot more so than we currently do. Like I don't want to comment too much on this pandemic, but I don't know if there's much collaboration between countries. It doesn't seem like there is.
So we've got to talk next week on literally this, on individualism versus this sort of communal idea, just in this pandemic and in society as a whole.
But then in competition, I mean, competition is great. Like competition is a really useful force, right? And you've got to kind of harness that force. If it can get unhealthy, and that's it can get really unhealthy, but it can be very, very healthy. Businesses have to compete. In martial arts, you have to be a little bit competitive if you're going to win. I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I just think there's a time and a place for the two of them.
Time and place for both. Yeah, definitely. I can see competition helps some kids push themselves. At the same time, I mean, we blame the parents, but sometimes it's the kids as well, that they just get the wrong end of the competition.
But that's fine. So you gotta go past the boundaries a bit to know what they are.
Yeah. So Tio's just commented. He said specialization may be a result of competition. So you kind of lose your generalness in that space.
Again, it's a time and a place thing, right? So if all you're thinking about is winning, like all the time, you only think about winning, then yeah, you'll get specialized in that one thing. It's like, you know, when in the UK, when teachers are, well, how teachers know what tests are going to come up, so they'll try and teach their students in accordance to what the test is, what test is. So you're kind of competitive in terms of the marks, and you become specialized for that test instead of becoming a thinker.
Yeah, I mean, so I was talking to a few doctors last week, and what they were saying is because they've spent 10 years specializing, they know the eye really well, or they know the stomach really well. And then when this COVID stuff happened, they haven't looked at a lung for the past 10 years. So you kind of de-skill. And now what they're thinking is in the future, maybe they'll regularly have sessions that, okay, you specialize, but one week a year, 2 weeks a year, you'll go off and do something different. And that way, at least you retain that base fundamental.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't see, when I talk about not being a specialist, I'm not saying specialists are bad. Like, I want, you know, if I ever have something up on my brain, I want my neurosurgeon to be a specialist. Like, this is you know, that I don't want my neurosurgeon to be a generalist. I want my neurosurgeon to be a master of what he's doing, right? Someone flying a plane, you better be a master pilot, right? So there are some, again, it's a time and a place. So if you've got lives at stake, you probably want to be a specialist at what you're doing. But in
You
terms
shaved
of,
your head, ready for the surgery.
you get me, increase the IQ. Yeah, but so like, again, it's a time and a place. I think if you want to maximize your well-being as a human being, like, as a human, you've got to understand like general principles. And
okay, so what's the last message that you want to leave these guys with? Obviously, join us next week. Is it
yes,
2 weeks?
of course.
When are we having it?
Yeah, I'm gonna aim for next week.
Okay, next week.
Yeah, so join us next week. We will have a YouTube channel and a dedicated Facebook page. And what do I want to leave you with? Do something new.
Something new?
Yeah, you're locked down. Do something new. This is new for me, right? So yeah, do something new. Even like sit on the floor when you have your dinner. Like, that's new. Just do something new.
Okay. And how do we get in touch with you? Send you pictures of us sitting on the floor.
On Instagram, my name is Dinay, DINAAY _ Sharma, SHARMA. Facebook. Can you contact me on? Yeah, contact me on the Facebook page. It should be human-ish. I will
slide
share
into
that
his
soon.
DMs.
Oh yeah, don't worry. Yeah. Very specific about them.
Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah, man. That's it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on your first one.
My pleasure. Here's to many more.
Absolutely. All right. Lovely.
All right.
Sign off.
See you later, guys. Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye.